To an I-Team exclusive, for the first time, one of the men filing suit against Bishop Eddie Long is speaking out.
We're talking about Jamal Parris telling a story of what he calls a love-hate relationship with a man he considered a father. Senior I-Team reporter Dale Russell first broke the story. He's here with his exclusive report. Dale?
Tom, following Bishop Long's sermon on Sunday, we caught a plane to Colorado, home to Jamal Parris, the oldest of all the accusers in the case. And in a parking lot late at night, he told us a story of love, anger, and a desire to protect other young men. This is a very serious allegation, but no one has heard from you. Jamal Parris didn't want to talk at first, but before he left us, he had plenty to say about Bishop Eddie Long.
If you look at us in our eyes and you hear the pain in our voice, we don't have a reason to lie to this man.
Jamal Parris is one of the 4 young men who have filed sexual misconduct lawsuits against Bishop Long, accusing him of using scripture and church money to sexually seduce young men.
I am not the man that's being portrayed on the television. That's not me.
On Sunday, Bishop Eddie Long spoke out for the first time, never flatly denying the claims, but vowing to fight.
I feel like David against Goliath.
Since the lawsuits were filed last week, none of the 4 young men involved have talked publicly. Until now. We found Jamal Parris shopping at a 24-hour store in Colorado. Initially, he was reluctant to talk. Dale Russell of Fox 5 News in Atlanta. Can we talk to you for a second? But once he started, he told a riveting story about how as a young teen, a 14-year-old with no father in his life, he joined New Birth Missionary Baptist Church. Bishop Eddie Long came into his life. He said Long said to call him Daddy and to trust him with spiritual guidance.
I loved him, and I'm always going to have love for the things that he taught me. But how he left us, it hurt worse than anything I ever felt in my life.
Parris claims in his lawsuit the father-like figure used scripture to justify sex, and he lavished money, cars, jewelry, trips in the bishop's private jet, even homes for some teens, sometimes with funds from the church coffers.
You finally have a father that you've always wanted for and always dreamed of would just walk away from you if you don't give him what you want. So you end up turning into something you never thought you'd be, which is now a slave to a man that you love. Jamal
says the bishop began a slow sexual seduction, which became intimate and more intense after the young boys became of legal age.
So while the media and the press and the rest of the people around the city or around the country look at us like, how can a grown man let another man touch him? What you have to understand is this man manipulated us from childhood. This was our father and we loved him.
Through his attorney, Craig Gillen, Bishop Long has called the allegations in the lawsuits false. In the end, Parris says when the bishop loses interest in sex and sets his sights on other young men, the boys are left behind.
This man turned his back on us when he had no more need for us. That's not a father. That's a predator.
Parris says he attempted to resolve the matter privately with the bishop, but when that didn't work, lawsuits were filed publicly identifying the 4 young men accusing the bishop.
We would have to be the craziest kids in the world to want to come out and admit to another man touching on us publicly. To really believe this is about money would be absolutely ludicrous.
He says at one time he loved Bishop Eddie Long, but he can't escape the nightmare of what he says Long did to him as a young man.
I cannot get the sound of his voice out of my head, and I cannot forget the smell of his cologne. And I cannot forget the way that he made me cry many nights when I drove in his cars on the way home, not able to take enough showers to wipe the smell of him off of my body.
Jamal Parris, near the end of our interview, said he wanted to speak directly to Bishop Eddie Long, and he turned to our camera to do so.
But that man cannot look me in my eye and tell me we did not live this pain, while you can sit in front of the church and tell them that you categorically deny it. You can't say that to our face, and you know this. You are not a man, you are a monster.
And then Jamal Parris got into his car and drove off into the night.